Hey boys, Old Man Copper here. I had something I wanted to talk to you guys today about. It's kind of been bouncing around in my head. And, I was thinking how, for 22 years, most of my adult life, I kind of measured my life in decibels, So, the sound of the bells in the fire station lets you know you had a call, the sound of the siren in the engine or the truck. The sound of those pumpers and trucks when you got on scene, and then really the sound of the emergency itself. So, when you're in the middle of an emergency, you really aren't still. You're constantly reacting. You're reading a building before you go in. You're feeling the heat when you go in because you really don't have any visuals if it's a really good burner, and you're making decisions on the fly. You're hoping, as a lieutenant, you're tasked with making a decision quickly with a limited amount of information. You really can't be distracted, or you shouldn't be. You got to be very focused. And you're really hoping that your training's really going to mitigate the risks. And then it does. But, the bottom line is firefighting is inherently dangerous. And there's actually kind of a thing going on now where, they want to safety it to death. And I'm sorry. You signed up. It's inherently dangerous. You just have to learn how to be better at it. And some days it's just your day. So what I'm getting at today is there's kind of one thing I learned that most of the dangerous fires that I ever dealt with were the ones in my own head. Were the ones that were in my house, the ones with my friendships, with my family. So, I feel like we've actually forgotten how to listen to each other. We sit there and we talk about, I hear you, but did we really listen? As I got better as a firefighter, became a lieutenant, you get better at listening. You get better at reading. I've actually talked about this with you guys before. There's actually a progression, and then this is all going to play into what I'm talking about, boys. So you'll get it. But when you start firefighting, you're a firefighter tailboard. You kind of responsible for yourself and tool placement and things like that. Where to get something. As a driver, which I was, you got to understand how drive the rig, take care of the crew in the rig. You have to understand your boys in the end of the fire, the hose line. And so, you're expanding. And then as a lieutenant, you've really got you're responsible for your crew, but you're also responsible for tactics and looking at a bigger picture. And then, of course, as command, you're responsible for the entire thing. But what I'm getting at is, you learn how to look at things in a broader view. And you do learn how to listen and read as you get a little further on in your careers as a firefighter. So what I really want to talk to you guys today is a technique that I learned when I was in the critical incident stress management, which was CISM debriefing. I was kind of like a counselor, if you will. It's not an official one, but when the firefighters would have a really nasty call, and I've talked about this before, they'd call me out to sit and talk to them. And 90% of the time, firefighters want to talk to another firefighter. And I'd go to other departments, guys who didn't know me. And a lot of the times that was even better. So, in a world that doesn't shut up, listening may be the only way to save a situation. And that's kind of a lot of the things I've learned. That's what I want to talk to you about today. So how I want to start this is, in the fire service, we have what's called a size up. So we get on scene, we're pulling up on scene, and we paint the picture of what's presented to us. And that might be, you look at at a house, and maybe in one corner there's a fire, so you have to identify the corner, which is, if it's on the left-hand side, so the front of the house is the Alpha, then the left-hand side of the building is the Bravo, so back is Charlie, and then the one is the other side is the Delta. So if you pull up and there's a fire in the left-hand corner of the house, you're saying, hey, pulling up on a single-family dwelling, fire showing from Alpha Bravo corner, engine 48 is pulling an attack line, engine 3/4 attack line moving to the front door. Lieutenant Shealy's about to pull to do a 360, and I haven't done that in quite some time. So it's I'm probably a little rusty, so I'm probably forgetting something. But if you rush in without reading the scene, you can get yourself and your crew in trouble. So this is important in conversations as well. So we always seem to be so busy when we're talking to somebody. Busy, or really, busy is not the right word, but ready to have a rebuttal to whatever's being said to us, that we only tend to listen to about a quarter of the conversation. We hear something, we go, okay, I know what I'm going to do. We're kind of sitting there waiting for that half second of silence so we can start to interject what we want to say, right? And we never actually, I'm going to say never, that's the wrong way to put it. We tend to not size up the situation or size up the person that we're talking to. And when I mean size up, just, figure out what let's just call the conversation an emergency. What emergency is happening in front of us? And of course, it doesn't have to be an emergency conversation, but we're going to use that as an analogy. So I'll tell you one thing. You want to talk about listening. Hold on. Didn't do just really, really well. But my very first CISM call, it was a bad one. I've been through a couple. I've been through months of training, and some, I couldn't tell you how much, but I'd been doing it. I had been doing some following around and in there for a little bit. But so the first main one that I got sent to was a gentleman, and believe it or not, this gentleman was a firefighter in the county over, and he had a rough shift, and he was studying for a lieutenant's test, and he was stressed out of his mind, and he took his daughter to school, had his baby in the back of his car, and when he got home, proceeded to walk inside and forgot his baby in the car. Very terrible call. So the boys, when he finally realized what was going on, you leave anybody in a car in Florida for too long, and they're not going to make it. And the baby didn't make it. That was a bad one. All right. Now, I was not on that, but of course I get called out to do the debriefing, and I was called out with a woman that actually trained me. And so we get there, and we're going, and we get called out to the fire department, which is a couple cities north of the city I serve in. I knew some of the guys there, though. I knew a lot of the guys there. But so we get pulled in, we get all the guys set up, and as everybody's getting set up, I look at the woman, I go, this is my first one. And just by training and everything, I said, you're taking lead on this, right? And she was just like, gave me this like deer in the headlights look. And I'm like, you got it. Okay. Yeah, but she did. She took the lead on it. But what really made me angry is you could tell she just was not prepared for it. And she pulled out our CISM sheet and literally read off of it. And I'm looking at the boys sitting around, and they weren't happy to be there to begin with. I mean, a lot of the guys, they get pretty ticked off. They're required to go on something like that. So they weren't happy. And so they're kind of, a few of them decided to talk a little bit. And she just kind of, I'm not going to say she blew him off. She just had kind of a dead puppy eyes when she's talking to him. Man. Yeah, it's a whole nother story. But that really ticked me off, man. So being my first time, but I stopped and said, and I went off protocol on this. And I said, you mind if I speak, boys? And they said, sure. And a lot of the guys knew me. They knew her too, but I think I commanded a lot more respect than she did. And I just sat and told them, the bottom line is that call was not a normal call. And if you're feeling froggy, it's not okay. It's not okay that you're feeling bad, but it would make sense if you feel bad about it. Because I'm going to get into another thing with it's okay to not be okay, but I don't believe in it. But so it's okay. It was okay if you're feeling bad about that call. And if you're feeling that way, I understand. And I said, so what I'd like you guys to do is to really sit down and be your brother's keeper. And if you notice, if you're feeling bad, if you notice your brother's feeling bad, talk to him. And if they don't want to talk, then help them find somebody that will. And if you don't want to help them, call me. And I said, if you don't want to go to your superiors about it because you're worried about whatever, call me and I'll take care of you. So, it was a tough one, man. But I can tell you, as soon as I sat there and I listened to what they had to say and I understood what they were going through, there was a lot of de-escalation there. And, but I did leave there pretty ticked at this woman because she just, talk about the level of unprofessionalism, but that's a whole nother freaking thing, man. I'll talk about it later. But, guys, listening isn't just a soft skill. Okay. It's got a biological aspect to it. So when you truly listen to someone, sit down and listen to them, and we're going to go over what that could mean. Their brain undergoes a kind of like a coupling, like they call it a neural coupling. So they literally sync. If you're the person that they literally sync with you, their nervous system syncs with you, and they feel safe because you're listening and they feel seen. So it's important, and sometimes in this world full of all this noise and distraction, that's one of the greatest gifts you can give to somebody is listening to them and earning their trust, respect, and giving them some safety. All right. Does that make sense, boys? So there's barriers to it, and we're going to kind of go over how you can do that and how you can become a better listener. All right. Let's go through the barriers first. So the first barrier is the advice trap. So when you listen to somebody, how many times, I've done it when I was married, and I was married 15 years, how many times you sat there with your wife and she'd be going through some stuff and the first thing you did was just start to solve it, you want to give them that 10-point plan, but most of the time, they don't want a plan. They just want a witness. They just want someone that's going to listen to what they have to say. I can't blame somebody on that. The next thing you want to do is there's a digital siren. Like we've got all these freaking phones around, and turn everything off. I think I might have touched on that already, but if you're looking at a screen when someone's talking to you, you want to talk about someone feeling rejected and unheard. It's a really good way to do it. I had a buddy of mine that was notorious for doing that to me. And what I ended up doing was whenever he'd do it, I just quit talking. Sometimes I even walk away. But I remember one time he's just basically doing this thing, scrolling through his phone as I'm talking to him. We just in the middle of this conversation, pulls his phone out. And after about 5 seconds of me just staring at him with kind of a look of like, you know what that look that look would be. He goes, "What's up?" And I go, "Hold on." So I just picked up my phone and I started doing that to him. The moment he gave me his I hate to go tit for tat, but it was just me trying to teach him a lesson. But he got it eventually, by the way. There is a little side note, guys. If you're talking to someone and they're not listening, stop talking. It'll help. So, the third barrier that we go, so we had the advice trap. We have a digital barrier we want to get rid of, or distractions, let's call them that. The ego. So, how many times, I hate to even say that I used to watch Dr. Phil, but sometimes I like some of his stuff, man. But he used to say, do you want to be right or do you want to be happy? So in a conversation, do you want to really try to be right in what you're saying, or do you want to find that connection? And sometimes we treat conversations tactically, right? Instead of treating them as a shared experience. We sit back and we want to interject the right way we would think to handle something. And, there's no better, clearer way to have someone feel unheard if they're wanting to be heard. And, plus you don't want to be wrong. I think you guys understand. So, how do we listen? And, I know, hey, okay, you got 2 ears and 1 mouth and you can listen and all that stuff, but there really is a technique to it. So, I already said this, you want to drop the gear, get rid of the phone, turn your body towards them. Really, turn towards them. Lock your eyes on them. Let them know with an open posture that you're ready to listen. Excuse me, boys, I'm talking so much. Not smoking my pipe. If someone comes to me and they want to talk, a lot of times when it's a real serious talk, they'll say something, but I don't look at my watch. At the firehouse, if someone wanted to talk, man, come on in. We take them in the office. So I walk in the office, not as a demeaning thing or anything, but it was like, hey, we'll find a quiet place. And I turn the computer off. I'd put my phone away. I'd shut the door so we had some space to talk. And I would turn towards them and open myself up. That's the first thing. Drop the gear, open up. Number 2, echoing. And this is where the echoes of empathy comes from. All right. So this is important. So when the person finished speaking, don't try to pivot into your story. What I want you to do is really be listening to what they said. And I want you to repeat back what they said to them, but not in their words. So you don't want to parrot back what they're going to say. What you're going to do is you're going to listen to what they said, and you're going to summarize and repeat it back. Okay. So that might be something as easy as, so what I'm hearing is that you felt sidelined in that meeting today. Is that right? And, they may look at you, yeah, that's exactly what it was. They might have had a 5-minute thing about how they felt, but then you really said, well, and you think and you listen to what they have to say. You said, well, maybe you probably felt like you wasn't heard in the meeting, or you got sidelined in it and something you wanted to say. Repeat that back and then ask them, is that okay? Or, is that right? The next thing is ask, don't tell. Now that goes back to, remember back in the days when we were kids, it was don't ask, don't tell in the army or the armed forces, but this is not what I'm talking about. I just can't. Every time I bring that up, I think about that. But ask, don't tell. And what that is instead of you saying, at the end of someone talking to you and you go, well, you should do, and that goes back to the advice thing, but you should do X, Y, Z. You know what I mean? Try to avoid that and ask them a question. Hey, how'd that make you feel? What do you think your next step is? Let them find their way to their destination. You can just be the flashlight or the one that opens the door, right? They've got to find their own way. If you start pushing somebody through what you say to where they need to go, they didn't get there on their own. And you want to avoid that. So, guys, remember, to kind of finish this up, man, I've spent my adult life pretty much saving things that are already half gone. You know, you'd get on scene, the house is already half gone, but you got to put it out and save the rest. You don't have to wait for an emergency or a disaster to employ this kind of communication. Remember, we've talked about this on this channel quite a bit on service and purpose, and that listening is an act of service. Listening could be one of the strongest tools in your toolbox. You can pontificate, right? It will build a bridge where there wasn't one at one point in time. And that's important. It's how we can find the echoes in ourselves. Okay. And, it's one thing I didn't mention was when you echo back what people are telling you, you give yourself an opportunity to really understand them and understand yourself a little bit, because you're trying to take what they gave you and form it into a different kind of context. It helps you as well. So, guys, I have a bit of a challenge for you this week, and nothing big, but after all some of this communication and echoing and this, say, active listening and everything, sit down for 5 minutes, try to have a conversation with somebody that's an active listening conversation. See what happens, man. Sit down, open up, nod, let them know that you're listening, and repeat back what you heard. You might be surprised in what you save. I don't know, something to think about, boys. But so I barely smoked as we're talking. I'm smoking that bent billiard meerschaum lattice. I've actually, now guys, has this ever happened to you? Where you go, hey, I'm going to get 1.6 ounces of tobacco. Oh, no, that's 16 ounces of tobacco. And you get a bag about this big, and I'm taken care of. So I'm having the Cherokee Black Tobacco ribbon cut. It's pretty good, but good Lord, I have a ton. I'm actually drinking this Cream of Kentucky cask strength, brothers, for the money. Insanely good. Of course, I haven't had much of it or smoked much with us, but, keep me going on this, boys. Oh, I also have the Old Man Copper Flapjacks Beard Balm and Flapjacks Mustache Wax in. Very good stuff. It smells like frickin' pancakes, man. I love that stuff. There's a story behind that. But anyhow, boy, this went long, and that's okay. I hope you guys had a great day, and I appreciate everything. And I also want to say thanks. My last video, I asked if it was okay if I was in the office and not out here in the on the porch, and should I stay put? And then everybody's like, well, pretty much you really don't care where you do it. Just keep doing it. So I love you guys, and I appreciate everything. And keep me going on this, brothers. I really enjoy this. It's sometimes it's not so easy bringing up some of the stuff of the past. But I don't know, man. It's been really good. I'm thinking about doing more than one long a week. There's this whole thing between shorts and longs. I'm not going to get into it with your voice, but anyhow, you guys have a great time. Love y'all. See ya.